Hello, everyone. My name is Jason Spellberg. I'm the U.S. Consular Chief here at the Embassy in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia. And today we are going to broadcast from Ulaanbaatar to discuss leadership with a very special guest, the Foreign Minister of Mongolia, Damdin Tsogtbaatar. Foreign Minister, thank you so much for agreeing to talk with me about leadership today.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
I'm sure that we're all going to be interested to hear your views on leadership. So I'll launch into my first question. What does lead by example mean to you?
Well, I think this is what true leadership is all about. If you do not do something yourself and then you appeal people to do what you do not do yourself, then the convincing power really reduces seriously. And people, logically follow those who not only appeal others, inspire others, but also do what he appeals others to do. I'm a Buddhist. Buddha was teaching his disciples really by doing what he was saying. So if he was not consistent in his deeds and then in his sacred teachings, then not many people would be following.
My next question would be, who did you admire as a leader when you were younger in your career or earlier in your career, and can you explain why?
I remember as a kid, I admired our first cosmonaut, Guracha. To me, he was a great leader, inspirer, because for a small country like Mongolia, I think I was fourth grade student at that time. It was a matter of pride, national. And his flight to the space was not just a flight to the space, but it was a flight of a nation to the outer space. You know, people really felt as if we flew out. And also, it was, of course, a great celebration of human achievement.
You threw me off guard with that answer, but I like it. Leadership could also be pioneering. What differences, if any, have you seen or noticed between the leadership styles in Mongolia and those in the United States?
It's an interesting question because, first, leadership is a leadership. So there are a lot of commonalities, common features, common properties that a leader has to have, no matter where he is or from which culture he comes from. But of course, there are nuances and there are differences. I think because we're now a very open, liberal, democratic system, for example, if we're talking about political leadership, I think there will be more common things in our leadership features than differences. But if you take, other fields of leadership, then, be it arts, culture, you name it, there could be some differences. For example, Mongolians being Oriental society, Buddhist society, predominantly Buddhist society, they respect humility. They respect this humble, approach to things. Whereas in a very competitive environment like the United States, I mean, on some issues you really cannot afford to be too humble, too closed, because then in the mass of 300 million you won't be seen. So, and time is precious, and you do not have time for being, noticed. And therefore, what you need is that for the sake of efficiency, and American economy is all about efficiency, time. You race against time, right? And therefore, when you have a chance, you try to be noticed, stand out right away. In that, I think to a certain extent we're different.
Do you find that there are comparative strengths and weaknesses between the Eastern and the Western leadership philosophies?
Depends where you apply it. For example, Western philosophies of leadership and the idea of leadership was born in the West. Asian or Oriental were also created in the Oriental societies, given from certain set of Oriental values as well. So therefore, these values or these approaches in leadership, they're efficient in their own context. So therefore, if you come with Western, approaches in the Eastern society, you really can be misunderstood on certain issues. The skill of leadership is in really choosing the right tools for the right context. If you want to efficiently lead, then you should be really applying the tools, the values, the approaches that are privy or that are natural to that environment where you're operating. So therefore, again, Western, Eastern values, you should not be mixing them. Each approach, methodology, values, set of values are appropriate in their own context.
Maybe you should not be mixing them, but to have knowledge or skills in both philosophies can be beneficial.
It enriches.
And enriches. And in flexibility, it enables one to be a leader under varying circumstances. It enables one to work better in a diverse environment.
Exactly. In this globalized world of 7 billion, if you're too narrow-minded, then you're doomed.
So pragmatically, on a more short-term basis, what are your top leadership challenges as the foreign minister of Mongolia?
We are a relatively small ministry, and when you do diplomacy, then diplomatic objectives of bigger countries, smaller countries, they're about the same. And then, in order to achieve the same objective, for smaller countries, you have to do it with much lesser resources and achieve the same goal. For example, if you want to promote some ideology or initiative, program, if you want to get some resolution with certain philosophy passed, whether it's big country, small country, it takes about the same effort. But for a smaller country, the same effort as for the big countries has to be, created or done by much fewer number of people. So from that perspective, it's of course a challenge, because coming back from conferences to our country, you cannot explain that, oh, we were understaffed. That doesn't work. And that's not an excuse. You have to get things done. And you cannot tell that, oh, diplomats of Western countries had much better funding and therefore they got this done. We did not do it because we were underfunded. That is not an explanation, and no one will take that explanation. And also, for example, to be heard. For a bigger country, for diplomats of bigger countries, you have this natural attention of international media. For us, that is not natural. We will have to create. But diplomacy has to be very skillful. So if you really, in order to attract attention of the international media, you do something completely unusual, then your country will be looking unusual. So therefore, you have to do the right usual things and yet get the attention of the media, which is not easy thing to do. Social media is providing completely new opportunities for smaller countries. So therefore, we should be really doing our best to make use of these new technologies, new opportunities that are being offered by the modern global community. Retrospectively looking into this span of history of international relations, in that span, the spot we're living in has, much more advantages that we did not have before. So from that perspective, there are opportunities that we should be really using. Instead of complaining, we can do a lot of positive things, even with your limited resources. And by the way, everybody has limited resources.
Thank you, Foreign Minister. And I think that your points are really salient for a small embassy as well within the U.S. Foreign Service. Sometimes we like to think that our lack of resources compared to the larger embassies is an excuse for getting things done, and it's not. And sometimes as leaders of a small embassy, we have to find creative ways to achieve those solutions, lacking the relative resources of our larger embassies. So thank you for that point. On the point of creative solutions, I have heard that you are spearheading an initiative to create virtual embassies using blockchain technology. And I wanted to hear more about that.
Mongolia cannot afford to have embassies in all the countries around the world. Then what we're thinking is we can create this digital embassy and send it out to the virtual community. And virtual community is basically or potentially can be the community of 7 billion people. It's really gonna be a digital real embassy with the digital ambassador. With the digital, embassy, you can actually have this actual face-to-face meeting, and then all of the points that you raised during the meeting will be registered, which means the government officer later on cannot be saying that, oh, I don't remember you saying this, right? Because it will be all there, and because it's on blockchain, you cannot tamper with it. So therefore, it will have this accountability system in it. And therefore, it can be also up in the priority, as if we had real meeting. Imagine how much time you will be saving, how much money you will be saving on this travel. Not only you can have meetings with our digital embassy staff, and there will be real people running it, and it will be, run by shifts, which means it will be working 24/7. Assume you want to have a meeting with some head of the department of the Ministry of Agriculture. Our guys, this embassy will be connected to all the other ministries, and they can arrange meetings with those people, and they will be either through Skype, through video, facilities, have actual meetings with the potential investors, potential, tourists who would want to come to Mongolia.
Is Mongolia going to be the first country to set these up?
In the format that we want to build it, I think it will be the first. In reality, we are doing it with our Chamber of Commerce, and therefore we're calling it each embassy. So it will be sort of our trade mission and trade office to the global community.
Do you have a time frame?
It was supposed to be yesterday, supposed to be finished yesterday, but this is the first undertaking. It's taking a little longer than I expected.
Sometimes creative solutions, innovative design does take longer than one expects, but it's a perfect example of how a leader can come up with an innovative solution to an issue or a problem of resources. And with that, thank you again, Foreign Minister, for sharing your thoughts on leadership with us, which I'm sure will be of benefit to the United States Foreign Service and all of the consular officers and consular chiefs working around the world. Thank you so much again.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Mashik Bartla.
Baiklah,